Word. Welcome to Voice Unbound, where I have the privilege of bringing on some I know and some I don't know. But today I know this sweet guest that we're having, and I'm having Monica on with us. And of course, you know how I am, guys. I love for them to speak about what they're doing, where they're going in life. I don't like to give all the stuff beforehand because that tells too many things. I like to let them share that as they go along and they're telling their story, and that is my mission, to have women share their stories, because sometimes we don't feel like we have a story, but we all do. We all have something to share. And don't be ashamed of it. There are some not so good parts to our stories, but that's what made us who we are today, and is what's showing us resilience and able to survive them. And right, we're here today. We made it through that story. We made it through that season. And as you know, I'm walking a season of my own. And God is teaching me so many great things through this season, even though I find it very hard some days. But I'm learning as I go that I can also impact other women with my story. So don't ever be one that says you don't have anything to talk about or share, because you do. So, Monica, we've got Monica on with us today, and she is going to share her story. And I'm just so thrilled to have you here with me today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. We've been talking about doing this for a while
I
and
know.
finally made it happen.
Yes,
So,
yes. Life happens with us all.
yeah.
You have been super busy with some great things. I've been on the other hand with my husband being sick and then passing. So, life. We just had to wait till some timing, and it worked. Here we are tonight.
Yeah. I love how you said that everybody has things in their background that they may not be proud of or that they don't think is important. But like you said, so much of that really tells your story and it led you to where you are now.
Yeah.
I'm really no different than that. I grew up in a really, really small town in
Oh,
Colorado, right outside of Aspen, and I was surrounded by my family. Both sides of my
mm.
family lived in the town. All my aunts and uncles, all my cousins, both my grandparents, we all lived within like 5 minutes of each other.
Oh, how nice.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had all of this family around me growing up. But I was the child that constantly pushed the envelope and constantly asked questions and got in trouble a lot for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I actually started out after high school. I started pursuing a career in criminal law and psychology.
Wow.
I had a passion for law enforcement and psychology from a very young age. I come from a law enforcement family
Mm.
and started college when I was 16 and just fell in love with the study behind human behavior. And it's funny when I look back now how much that plays in the work that I do now, even though I'm not in law enforcement and I didn't pursue like my doctorate in psychology. I use that now with my coaching.
Hmm.
So it all kind of looking back, I know that
It gave you the tools. Yeah.
right, it gave
Yeah.
me all these tools. So then I was going to be a police officer. My goal was to work for the FBI, and I had to leave the police academy because I found out I was pregnant. And
Uh-oh. That kinda stopped things, didn't it?
yeah, that put a halt to things.
Yeah.
Fast forward a couple years, and I had my daughter, and I started working in early childhood education.
Mm.
So I owned a preschool and a daycare, started working with young kids. I had done a lot of nanny work from a young age and absolutely loved working with kids.
Yeah.
So kept pursuing that passion for several years. And then in 2002, I lost my infant son.
Mm.
And at that point, I took some time off from the daycare, still have the daycare and preschool going. But the following year, I had another newborn son and wanted to be able to continue staying home. So continued to do that. And the following year, my husband had a brain infection and he was no longer able to work.
Mhm.
And at that point, it really became okay, I need to do something where I can get insurance because we were
Mhm.
losing our health insurance. And I started working in emergency medicine at a hospital, working in an emergency room. And I had always loved the study of medicine as well. So
Mhm.
loved doing that. I still work in corporate healthcare, insurance to this day.
Mhm.
But along the road of taking care, I have two medically challenged kids and my husband who's disabled. I found that I lost myself and I
Mhm.
lost my identity.
Mhm. We seem
So
to do
I,
that through all those
right?
different seasons as we go. We're
Yeah.
pouring so much of
Yeah.
ourself into them that we forget, "Oh, wait, there's me too." Right?
Right? Yeah. And so I was pouring and pouring and pouring. And you know, 20 years ago, my daughter's almost 30. They
Mhm.
didn't talk about self-care then and
Mm-mm.
didn't have the support systems in place that we have now.
No.
And so I didn't know the importance of making sure that I was taking care of myself and making sure that I was keeping my health in check. And so I kept going down that path. And when my kids were older, when my daughter was in high school, I was really sick. And I had been
Mm.
really sick for a long time. But again,
You kept
everybody else,
pushing.
yep,
Yeah.
everybody else came first.
Yeah.
So my doctor looked at me one day in his office and he told me, if you don't make some drastic changes, you're not going to survive. You're
Mm.
going to die and it's going to be sooner rather than later. You may not even see your kids graduate from high school.
And what did you
And
feel in that moment when he said that? I mean, here we are, a mom, we're thinking I could see
yeah,
myself thinking, "Wait, no, I got all these things I gotta do." And still
right?
not thinking about me and what needs to happen with me.
Right.
I would be, "Oh, wait,
Yeah.
I gotta do this, 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 this." But what he was wanting you to hear is, "Oh, wait a minute, woman, lady, mom, whoever you are
Ah,
identifying right this minute, you have got to take care of you."
yeah. And so I took it to heart, but I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Any person who has ever had health struggles, you go online and you search Dr.
Yes.
Google,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We love Doctor Google. All
and
things.
right, and it's so much information and it's all
Yeah.
different information
Yeah.
and it's hard to decipher and it's hard to figure
Mhm.
out, well, what should I do?
Mhm.
So I just didn't do anything for a while. And I just continued with life the way it was, kind of,
Pushing. Yeah.
right? If ignorance is bliss, if I ignore it, it'll go
Yeah.
away. It'll
It'll be
be better.
fine. It'll be
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And then COVID hit.
Mm.
And just prior to COVID, I had left a job that I had been at for about 13 years.
Oh.
I was completely burned out. I knew I needed a change. I knew that my health was affecting my work. And actually, just like 2 weeks before Colorado got shut down from COVID, I left my job and I was like, well, I'm going to do Uber and Lyft and I will figure it out and go from there. But I need to take this break. So then, everything starts getting canceled and everything starts
Mhm.
getting closed down. And I decide, you know what? I have all this time on my hands. I'm gonna put my health as a priority. So I started looking at holistic health certifications and enrolled in a course. It was a year-long program.
Mm.
Yeah, and so I had all this time. So
Yeah.
I enrolled in the program and I did it for me so that I could learn how to take care of myself. I had also been, some of the other parents at school and stuff had talked about, like, have you thought about looking at, this holistic route rather than traditional
Mhm.
medicine?
Mhm.
Because I had tried traditional medicine.
Yeah.
By that point, I weighed well over 300 pounds.
Mm.
I had uncontrolled diabetes. I was really sick.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe there's something to this. And so I started down the certification and got that a year later with no intention of using it for anything but to learn how to take care of
Care
myself.
of yourself. Yeah.
And to take care of my kids and see
Mm-hmm.
if these other things help them and my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started seeing that, like, wow, people are using this and they're teaching other people and they're coaching other people, but I had no idea how to go, how to
Yeah.
go about that.
Yeah.
Um, so then at the tail end of COVID, our family decided to make a huge move from
Ooh.
Colorado to Texas.
Wow.
So, myself and my husband, my two kids, and my grandson, we left all of our family behind and we moved to Texas.
Mm.
And um, I can say that it was and looking back now, it was the perfect decision for us.
Yeah.
We love being here in Texas. We love the weather. We love being at the beach, and it really, like, getting here, I still didn't have a job.
Mm.
So started looking for a job, still had in the back of my mind, what can I do with this certification? But
Yeah.
still didn't know what to do with
How?
it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had never done anything with personal development. So I couldn't put the two together because
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't a world I had ever stepped into before.
Mm-hmm.
So I met a mutual friend of ours
Yeah.
who holds a lot of women's events through a networking company for supplements that I joined. And she said, I'm having this really small event and I'd love for you to come. Well, I didn't do things like that. I had never done anything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And it took some arm twisting.
Mm-hmm. For me
Uh,
too. I remember
right?
that doing it. It's like, oh, spending money on me like that for what? What am I?
Right.
Yeah,
And it
never
was it
been.
was a drive. It was, I had to drive. It was 5 hours away
Oh.
and I had hotel expenses and things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
but it was a small room. And I think she could tell that that was gonna be kind of the deal breaker for me. It wasn't gonna be so overwhelming that I
Yeah.
would be able to handle it. And
Mm-hmm.
so went to this event and I committed at that event. She asked me to come up and share something and make a commitment. And so just getting up and standing in front of these women was terrifying for me
Oh
because
yeah.
I was terrified of public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Even as a young child,
Yeah,
I
me
went,
too.
like,
Nope.
it was so bad. I
Yeah.
went to school with the same kids. I started kindergarten with this group of kids and I graduated high school with this group of kids.
Wow.
We went to school together, and even these kids that I went to school with, it was
It still felt like no way. I'm not standing in front.
incredibly difficult. Like, it would make me sick. I would
Remember
shake.
remember when you had to do book reports, you used to have to stand up and read your book report. I was like, "Nope,
I was
nope,
always sick on those days.
I'll take a 0." It's terrible.
Yeah.
I'll take a 0. I ain't getting up in
Yeah.
front of this class. No. Mm-mm.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know
So,
why I was so scared, but I just never wanted to.
right. It was just always something that terrified me. I
Mhm.
didn't do it often, and I'm sure that that's part of it. I didn't do it
Yeah.
very often. So I got up there, knees shaking and all, and I committed to telling my story from a stage in the next year was the commitment that I made. And another one of the girls that was there, I met all these girls there, and she kept asking me, like, why don't you have a podcast? And I'm like, well, I had never heard of a podcast. I didn't know how to
Yeah.
do a podcast.
What's
Like,
that?
I
Yeah.
had never listened to one before. She's
Mhm.
like, you really should start a podcast. And okay, like,
Yeah.
that's so far out of my realm. I have no idea how to do that. And
Yes.
so I had no intention of keeping up the commitment that I had made. But a few months later, I had started getting coached, doing trauma coaching, and
Mhm.
went to an event. And the host of the event, that was my trauma coach, she grabbed me and she pulled me on stage and she goes, "You're getting coached in front of everybody." And I'm
Oh, what? I have
and
no
I
voice. I can't speak.
right, and I
Silence.
I still can't really remember everything that I said while I was up there, but
Nope.
by that point, the idea had been planted that
Mm.
maybe I can coach women. Maybe I can help them walk through what I've walked through. And maybe that's why this certification, why it crossed my path and why I went this route.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, but my concern was being able to show up
Mm.
because I have a genetic disorder that causes really severe chronic pain.
Mm.
And at that time, I was really struggling with the pain
Mm.
control. So my concern was, what if I have these clients and I can't show up for them the
Can't
way that I
show
would,
up. Yeah.
right? And it was, and so she coached me around that. And I came down off the stage when we were done, and several women came up to me and they were crying. And I
Mm.
thought, oh my gosh, what did I say? Like, did something happen? Did I say
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
And they told me, because of the story you just told, I feel like I can share my story now.
Mm.
And
That's
I was
huge.
like, right?
See the impact of our stories.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's when I realized that this was the path I was being led down,
Mhm.
to help these other women start walking the path that I had started walking and show them what is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. What I was thinking while you were talking, because you said you had 2 children with disabilities, some things that you had to work with, but caregiver, and that's full time for you. That's not something that kinda was a season and went away. It's
Yeah.
still ongoing, right?
Yeah, my daughter's older now and really manages her care. My
Mhm.
son is older. They're both adults now, but they have the same genetic issue that I have, and
Mhm.
so they deal with chronic pain and
Mm.
and all that goes along with it. So it's something that we all had to learn how to navigate, and
Yeah.
we support each other. And so now they're adults and they've learned, really how to take care of themselves. But
That's good.
it's, you're always mom. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
you're always going to be checking up on them, just like
Mhm.
you would, even if your kids didn't have
Oh,
medical issues,
definitely.
still
Yeah,
going to
you're
check
always
up
gonna
on
know
them.
how they are. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
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 So what about your husband, though? That's still full-time caregiving?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's still he has never been able to return to work. He from the infection, he has a traumatic brain injury.
Mhm.
So he has to have someone with him 24/7. So just somebody else in the house. I'm very lucky with my job. I'm able to work from home. So that really has been a blessing. Uh,
Yeah.
not having to go back into an office to work.
Mhm.
So but it is, it does take, it's coordinating when I'm out of town, my kids take
Mhm.
on more responsibilities, but we coordinate it and we make it work. And
Yeah.
he gets to spend an amazingly huge amount of time with my grandson. We
Oh.
So like over the summer, my grandson will be with us, several days during the week. And
Mhm.
so my husband will be able to have that time and spend
That's
that
so
time with
good.
him.
Yeah.
So, definitely, I grew up around my grandparents and I still
That's
have
so,
those
so
memories.
fun. Yes.
And
Yes.
so, yeah, I'm really excited that my grandson will also be able to have those memories of having that close connection with us.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so important. I've gotten this past weekend, I got to have my granddaughters, one of my granddaughters is expecting my great grandbaby
Yeah.
and second one. And so we had our shower here Saturday. And that's just my joy. I smile in ear to ear just to get to be around them. And as they are growing and becoming the women they are, I'm like, this is just so cool. And then
Yeah.
have my little great grandson running around the yard, getting his muddy feet because we've had rain like crazy. But Lord, it was nice that day. Thank you. But the ground was still wet. And so he got to experience muddy feet. he thought it was the coolest thing ever because he's a boy. And so, and then getting his feet washed off with a water hose by his Gigi because my daughter is his Gigi. So we were
Yep.
all here. And then today, by surprise, my brother calls and come meet for lunch. So just the family time and getting to be with everybody is just so important. But I was thinking about the caregiving aspect because I know you help women through this because there's a lot to it. There's so much to it. And like you said, the coordinating and you're blessed to work from home. Some women aren't, or some wives have to quit their job and have to be home.
Right.
And then what, and trying to figure all that out. And I know, Monica, just in the year time that I was the caregiver, it's a lot. It's a
Yeah,
lot
it
because
is.
mine, it was day in and day out too, 24/7 as we got sicker,
Yeah,
and no sleep and, trying to function again the next day. And then I'm trying to still run businesses from home, thank the Lord, from home,
right.
because that was my prayer. So I know that that is such a valuable part of your coaching for these women that because there's a lot of women in that role as a
Yep,
caregiver. Sadly, there's a lot. And so that you can show them how and give them techniques and ideas of how to make it possible where they're not stressing out and feeling overwhelmed and, because they want to do it. I mean, that's their love, that's their person, and you want to take care of them. And also be getting the outside resources that are available for them and use them. you know,
yeah,
that's what I had
yeah.
to do. I was like, okay, yeah, come because it's like, I need a minute just to be here, but you be here too. And we were able to do that. So I love that about your coaching too. And then just helping women through your transformation and showing them that it's possible to be able to be healthier and,
Right.
and take care of the self so that
And
you
that you
can
can do
continue.
both.
Yeah.
You can be a full-time caregiver because that's
Yes.
that's the mistake that I made for years and years and years was I didn't ask for any help. If
Mhm.
somebody asked me, everything's fine.
Yeah, I
Everything's
would
good.
yeah.
It's
I said that
okay.
too. Yeah. I got
And,
this.
so you put on this brave face and you because you don't wanna burden other people.
Mm-mm.
And then, as I started so when I left that event, I knew that I needed to coach women, and I, went down and got an additional 4 certifications, including a master life
Mhm.
coaching certification, and
Wow.
because I wanted, I wanted the background, I wanted to,
The structure.
can I do this? Can I really do
Yeah.
this? Juggle a full-time job, caregiving? Can I do all of this? And then showing other women, here's how you balance that, and here's how
Mhm.
you make sure that you're taking care of yourself and keeping yourself a priority. In my case, it's my health. I have to keep my health
Yes.
priority. So that was the first thing that I started tackling when I got my certifications was getting involved in personal development because that's how I pour into myself
Mhm.
and really changing my health. So from
I will cut that part out. Dogs barking. Okay, keep going.
So, in a 2-year span, I started taking care of myself, putting myself as a priority, and ended up losing 150 pounds in the process.
That's incredible.
And I mean, I think about it and I'm like, I lost a person,
A
but
person. Yeah.
like a whole person,
Yeah.
but I lost so many other things in the process of walking down that path and walking down the personal development path of not having to people please all the time
Mhm.
and not having to feel like I have to carry the load all the time. And
Mhm.
so it wasn't just physical weight that I lost,
Right. Right.
but it was a whole mindset transformation that happened.
Mhm. Yeah, I could see that in you. In just the short time that I've known you, I've seen such a change in that, coming out of your like that clamshell, I guess. I just picture it opens up and like, here I am. And then you're not having to carry like the burden of it all. Like I know how that year when he started getting sick, I was afraid to leave the house because like nobody else could do anything and I had to do it all. But I'd
Yeah.
leave and I would worry. the whole time, but I did it. I left. And then as we got closer, of course, hospice wants to help you in every way. And I'd
Yeah.
be like, no, we're good. Same thing. No, we're good. We've got this. But it's just that it's just a woman until I don't know, it's something about women. We think we can just handle it all. But
Yeah.
then when we find ourselves in the position of starting to release it and not the people pleasing and not thinking we have to do it all, we realize how beautiful it really is that everything still works okay. We still have part in it, but we're just not having to like do it all, you know?
Well, and something that I realized was, people were asking me because they were willing to offer their help. And
Yeah.
I looked at that as I'm burdening them or I'm asking
Yes.
to overextend themselves
Yes.
when that was just a story I was telling myself.
Mhm.
Been offering it if they weren't able to do
To
that.
do it. Yeah, because they wouldn't put themselves in that position, right? I mean, I
Right?
did worry 'cause his friends would wanna come sit with him. And I'm like, "But he might do this, this, or this. Are you gonna be able to handle that?" Because I didn't wanna leave you there and you'd be, like, freaking out.
Yeah.
And one of them said yes, and so I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go get my hair cut." Simple things, right? Just go get a haircut.
Yeah.
And I come back and I can see the frazzle on his face because it's not what they expect. They think it's not gonna
Yeah.
be anything really, and when
Yeah.
things happen, they just that little freaky out mode, but he did fine, but he was still you could tell it was a little scary for him to
Yeah.
stay, but I got my hair cut. You know?
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
I
And
did
he
it, so
handled it. He was okay.
everybody
He
did
lived.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just taking that opportunity to do so. So do you still like I know with your weight and everything you lost and you did, are you still very cautious of how you now treat your body? Are you paying attention still, to those things and what you eat and
Yeah, that really and it's really crazy now when I go back, like, I realize that I had, like, a binge eating disorder.
mm,
Um, I never would have admitted that,
yeah,
prior to this,
yeah.
but now with the coaching that I've done and the coaching that I teach women, I can look at the food habits that I had
Mm,
and realize that I ate in place of having emotions about anything.
mm,
So instead of getting upset about something, I would just go eat a pound of chocolate.
yeah.
So
Bake a batch of cookies and eat them all.
right? Or a bag
Right?
of chips
Yeah,
or,
yeah,
something.
yeah,
And I was doing that because then I didn't have to process anything. I didn't have to think about anything.
yeah.
The other thing I did all the time, I was always busy, like always some kind of busyness, and always
Mm.
had to have noise on in the background and had to be doing something. I couldn't ever just sit. And that
Just be in the quiet. Yeah.
right, and that I know goes back with the binge eating that it's a way of not processing emotions and
Mm,
not dealing with things. You
mhm.
just, you stay if you're busy, then you don't have time to pay attention to it.
Well, like I like to say, you're dealing versus healing, you know?
Yeah.
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 You just people like just keep dealing, doing the same thing over and over every day,
Yeah.
covering up what needs to be healed.
And now that I recognize that, I look back and the foods that I used to eat, I don't I don't enjoy eating them now. They
Right.
don't
It's a treat if
good.
you have something. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I'll have, a small piece of chocolate every once in a while, but now, like and I don't know if part of that is psychological in the sense that
Mm.
it's my body's way of saying, "No, we don't wanna go back to that." So those foods now don't taste good to me. So I
Oh,
rarely
that's a blessing.
right?
Because a lot of times you can, like, go away from it, but then as soon as you get that taste in your mouth again, you're like, "Oh, well, I've been missing that." That was
Yeah,
sure good.
absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Because there's so
Yeah.
many ways of eating now, that people say are good for you, and you've gotta find your own rhythm for sure of what fits your, personality, your habits, your daily routines, and all that. Because I see that, well, that may not work for me, that one that somebody may offer, but let's
Yeah.
try it, and then we can see how we can adapt it to work.
That's really what's so key is, because I did every diet in the book. I had
Oh,
tried
yeah.
everything, and
A
it
lot of
was
pills too.
right? And it was healing my mind so that I could heal my body, but then being able to make it sustainable and make it where, if it's too complicated, you're not going to do it because
Shut
nobody's
me
got time
down.
for
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
And if it involves a bunch of counting, I don't have time for
I'm
that.
out.
And math is not my specialty.
No, I'm out. Nope, mine either.
So
Nope.
I learned to really eat intuitively and listen to my body and fuel my body with what it's telling me it needs
Mm,
instead of, no, we can't eat that because that's a bad food.
mm,
Or, no, no, we can't eat this because this has too many calories.
mhm.
I don't look at calories on food. I'm very careful to eat whole foods. I rarely will eat processed foods.
Yeah, that's
For
probably the key of a lot of things in the
Right.
diet
Yeah.
because same thing, my
Yeah.
husband's like, moderation. Don't start saying you
Right.
can never have a piece of cake again because what are you gonna do? You're
Exactly.
gonna go so
You're gonna
angry.
crave it.
You want it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like maybe I have a piece of cake, or I used to when I was trying to be really strict or do things, I would be like one day would be just eat whatever,
Yeah.
feel free. And when you're fasting, that was nice because you had your fasting, and during that, when you were not, you could pretty much eat, but you didn't
Yeah.
want to overboard, but you could eat.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's it, like I love that a lot of the, your head. You've got to get your mind straight because there is a
Yeah.
lot of stuff happening in there when
Yeah,
it
there's
comes
lots of head
around.
stuff,
Yeah,
and
when
it
you're
all
eating all the
influences.
food. Mhm.
Yeah, it really does influence, a lot of the food choices you make. I found that, I had always had just basic labs done, and,
Mm.
those it's always, "Oh, everything's good," and I'm like,
Everything's good.
everything's good, but I don't feel good. So is it
Yeah.
really is
Yeah.
everything really good?
Yeah.
And I found a doctor that was more than happy to order really in-depth labs for me. And he was like, you got this going on and you got this going on
Hmm.
and all these things, and I started researching it and I was like, "Oh, that's why I craved that food," or "That's why I was having trouble, that's why I constantly wanted chocolate."
Mhm.
Because my labs were off when they did a deep dive into that. And
Yeah.
so it wasn't, so many times we're told, well, these basic labs are good. It's just all in your head. You're just getting older, you're a mom, you
Yeah.
have kids,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they don't look at that. And there's such a correlation between the hormones in your body, your
Mhm.
mental health, your blood glucose, your thyroid, your
Mhm.
cortisol, it's all tied together.
Mhm.
And that was learning all of that, really was huge for me. I had done the healing in my mind, but to keep healing my body and keep being able to keep my health as a priority, I had to keep digging deeper, and I still do that. I still,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
meet meet with new people about new health things that are coming
Mhm.
out, and research it and things like that to see what is going to fuel my body the best.
Mhm. I agree. And I don't think people realize how off, like you said, because they do just a simple blood test. And my doctor's pretty good about doing a whole round. Like I'll be like, "What? What's all these things?" Because I've never heard it
Right.
before. But and I'm glad he did because my potassium was off a year ago.
Oh.
And I'm like, "Why is that going low?" Because I didn't know. My mom had problems with that, so I always like, "Was that hereditary?" But I don't know because I didn't do enough research to see if that is something that can be passed down. But I was like, "Okay, now what?" "Well, you're gonna have to go on medicine for that." I'm like, "No, but okay, but I don't wanna stay on it, so let's get me up and see what I gotta do." And then I had lab work just a couple of weeks ago on my potassium. I'd been off the meds for a month. Potassium is up, staying up, but you can't play around with that. You gotta keep that
No.
up. That
Yeah,
can't go down.
definitely.
But then my
Yep,
vitamin
that's
D
really
was, like,
important.
tankered. I was like, "Okay." So he put me on a weekly vitamin D so that I don't have to take a pill every day. I don't like taking pills. It's all I can do to take my supplements, and I spread them out during the day because it's like, ugh,
uh,
just swallowing pills, all day long. But I know what they do for our body because of this world and what we've done to our bodies. They need the supplementation, right? But
Absolutely.
anyway,
Yeah.
health can always be a topic because we're all striving to do better, hopefully, in that arena. And as we get older, because I know every time I put a gear on, there's like, okay, something else is like, you know, I'm like, thank you, Lord, for that. I'm supposed to stay going. But you did take the jump and started your podcast. So I
Did.
love that.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's been,
Started a
has
podcast.
that been about a year already?
It was in November of 24.
Okay, so
So
it'll be a year
just
this in November.
here in November.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, I told you
Yeah.
things seem like forever ago. Oh, yeah, and it's going well.
Yeah, yeah, I did that. I launched a coaching business, so I
Yes.
am working on, working with women, and I have an amazing opportunity through my church to work as a coach also with women through my
I
church.
love
So
that. Oh, that's
there's
such a blessing.
oh my gosh, there's about a
Yeah.
hundred women that I have the ability to work with, and so I'm looking at how I can expand that and start
Mm.
meeting with them like every 3 to 4 months, bring all of them together,
Yeah, yeah. I am
just
looking
pour
at
into
that
them.
too. I love that idea because that's a
Yeah,
great place to start, right? Oh,
yeah,
yeah, I love
yeah.
that. And then you had, also this last April, you stood on that stage
I
and spoke,
did.
and I was
Yeah.
so proud of you. That was so good. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that was I went to an event a year ago, and I saw women up on stage, and again, going back to I'm not a public speaker. I
Yep.
don't I don't talk in front of people, but I was like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm
Mhm.
like, this is crazy. I don't do that. This is crazy. This has to be wrong.
Wrong
And
person.
right? And it just kept being put on my heart. This is
Yeah.
what you're supposed to do. This is what you're supposed to do. And so I talked to some of the other women that had spoken on the stage that year, and they were like, you have to do this. Like, you have to. It's like it's being presented to you. You have to.
Oh
And
my.
so I worked with Amberly for the past year and then spoke on her stage in
Mhm.
April of this year, and spoke I've actually done several virtual events since the beginning of the
Yes, I
year,
saw
and
that. Yes.
have a few more planned and a couple
Awesome.
more in-person events that I'll be doing later this fall in Chicago.
Oh, wow. That is so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, so
Yeah.
just by opening that door and calling, God will place you in the right places and give you
Right.
the courage to do, right?
Right? It will
Shaky
just
knees
all
and
work
all.
out,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
It'll work out. It sure will.
Yeah.
Like, you think about what am I going to speak about? And you've told your story, but then when you stand in front of everybody, it's like everything just seems to go away. You're like, I know my
Yeah.
story, but I can't even get it out. Oh, but that's so good that you had the coaching with Amberly. And I know that had to be such a blessing because she's such a cool woman. She's just a blessing. And have her lead you and give you the courage to, and the tools to be a speaker and do it.
Now I still got up there and shook like crazy, and
Oh, I
I
bet
had to
so.
look over. I The stage was just tall enough that I could look over everybody's head because I was afraid
Oh,
if I
nice.
looked at somebody in the
Yeah,
eye that I
you'd
would lose
lose it.
it on stage.
You would lose
So,
it. Yeah. Yeah. It's like those bright lights. Just have those bright lights where I can't see nobody.
well, that's what I expected. I thought the lights would be brighter, and then they weren't,
They
which
weren't.
I loved the room. So we didn't have to use
Yeah.
really lights, but
Yeah.
I had so many people in the room that I knew, and I was like, If
This
I
is
would,
hard.
right? This is really hard." I thought, "Oh, if it's people that I know that I have a
Hmm.
relationship with already, it'll be easier." No, it was still hard.
No,
It
it's
was
harder.
still hard.
Yeah, because it's like, oh gosh, they know me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of them didn't know my story.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of them knew, bits and pieces of my story,
Right.
but
Right.
a
But
lot of
not the
them
story.
didn't
Yeah.
know a lot of my
And did
story,
you
and
have I'm asking like crazy questions, but did you have a
no,
teleprompter? I couldn't remember if it was a teleprompter there.
no,
No. See, I'd be
no,
freaking out.
no
But then
teleprompters.
also, I think I would mess up if I had a teleprompter because you're
I
trying to
think
read it
so.
and then your brain is
Yeah,
processing what you're doing. And then I'd be looking
yeah.
down and be like lost.
Yeah, there was a clock, down at the bottom because we
Yeah,
had everybody had a time limit of
right.
how long we would have on stage, and that's what threw me off. I was good until I looked at the clock, and then I was like, "Oh, no, am I gonna finish in time?"
Yeah.
And I finished perfectly on time,
Oh, wow.
and so it
That's
was
good.
nothing to worry about, but,
I
of course,
love
I
it.
was gonna worry about it.
Oh, you do. Yeah, because you see it ticking away. Wait, I've got more to say.
Yeah.
Wait, I gotta finish. They have to know the end or tune in
Right?
next time, right?
Exactly.
You could say,
Yeah.
"Tune in next time." Oh, I just love you. I love that you have stepped into your passion and your calling and still doing all the things at home and, knowing showing that it's possible, working a full-time job.
Right.
Kudos to you. This is, and still not being afraid to take in the other talents that God has given you. Because if we sit and not use those talents, people are missing out, y'all. They need you. Your story does matter. And so
That
don't
was
be
huge
afraid
for
to
me.
share it and get out there and impact others with it. So
Right?
again, I thank you. I'll have all her connections, anything that's coming up that you want to check out and be a part of her podcast, please subscribe, go listen. We'll have that click in there where you can just click on it, go right to it. Anything that you want to offer in there, we'll make sure it's there for them. But I just thank you for being on
Of
today.
course, it was absolutely my honor.
Thank you.